Welcome to this LinkedIn Live conversation. My name is Rick Franzi. My purpose and the purpose of the coaching practice that I lead is to help leaders like you live impactful lives. My guest today is Lynn Guerin. I'm excited to have Lynn on the show. I've invited him here to discuss his latest book. Get this, Coach 'em Way Up, the 5 Lessons for Leading the John Wooden Way. Here is a copy of the book. Lynn, thank you for sending it to me. I've enjoyed looking through it, and I'm excited to have you on the program to talk about it today.
Oh, fantastic, Rick. Great to be with you.
So, Lynn, let's get started right with the first question. What's the main idea that's contained in your book, and could you share that with our audience?
Yeah, I think the main idea, Rick, is to really understand how important it is to become the head coach of your own life, and the opportunity to understand what it takes to really realize your own true potential. And if you do that, to earn the opportunity and the responsibility and the privilege to maybe help and coach others to do the same with their life.
So how did you come to this epiphany, realization?
Well, I think it probably stems from, I've been in the consulting and training and performance improvement field for a lot of years and got a chance to work closely with a legend like John Wooden and worked personally with him for 15 years. And when you were around that kind of greatness, boy, it just can't help but rub off on you. And that really was the opportunity when you saw what John Wooden's life was about and who he was as a man and a person, and the opportunity that could become part of who you are, and you ultimately could help other people move to that kind of place in their life. Pretty exciting idea.
That is, and he's certainly an icon, not just in the sports world, but in the idea of leadership, and so many of the things that he used to build successful teams are transferable off the court as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. He was more about, I think, teaching life. His reputation obviously started from coaching the game of basketball, but the game of life was really the lab that he did most of his great work. And not only the people that he worked with and what their lives became, but who he was as a person, the grace and humility and strength, and the quality of his faith, and how considerate he was. Just the kind of person that you want to be and that you want to be around.
Right. So, Lynn, I found it interesting, and maybe you could share from your perspective as you write about it in the book. Tell us why winning, which we talk about basketball, and frankly, his fame came from the championships that his team were, the success that he had on the court. But tell us why winning isn't the answer to the challenges that business leaders find themselves faced with today. And if it's not the answer, then Lynn, what is the answer?
Well, Rick, I think winning today has become too much about the outcomes. And winning is really a kind of a zero-sum game,
right,
where someone has to win, but then someone has to lose. And
right.
Coach Wooden didn't believe that winning makes you a winner, but losing also didn't make you a loser. He just didn't believe that. He never talked about winning. He never mentioned winning. He really saw winning just as the frosting on the cake. It made the game a little sweeter. But he talked about and pursued other things that he thought were so much more important. He talked about character and teamwork and humility and sacrifice and selflessness, and really the process of getting there. With him, it was a lot more important why the game was played and how the game was played. And that was a lot more important than the score at the end of the game, or the spoils or rewards, that come out of, what people think winning is all about. He was excited about the preparation, and then seeing the opportunity of what the preparation produced. And to understand his perspective on winning, there were some key ideas, some things that he said that helped to frame that. I mean, like his father taught him, never try to be better than someone else, but never cease to be the best that you can be. Or, the best competition I have is against myself. right? Those were the frameworks. And then his understanding of competitive greatness, right? That wasn't about beating somebody at something. It was competitive greatness was the enjoyment of a difficult challenge and being your best when your best is needed. I mean, that really framed his understanding of winning.
That's interesting because it leads me to this thought that you have, and you write about in the book, why it's important that leaders kind of start by coaching themselves before they try to put these principles onto others. So I think you've begun to open the door on why that's important, but maybe we could spend a few minutes, Lynn, helping the leaders that may be watching our LinkedIn Live or our YouTube broadcast understand from your perspective and John Wooden's perspective why leaders should start by coaching up themselves.
Yeah. Well, I think leadership first starts with, who you are, your values, and your character. Are you a person of love and joy and peace and patience and kindness and goodness and self-control? And those kinds of things that represented who John Wooden was as a leader. He thought he had a very simple definition of leadership. The idea of helping people achieve results or achieve a certain goal and the best possible results, while letting them know at the same time they did it themselves. So he was about that process of leadership. He wanted to be a civil engineer when he went to college. He wanted to build roads and bridges. And ironically, that's what he ended up doing as a leader his whole life. He had this incredible ability to see the destination, right? And then to create the path to get there. And he could see all the details it took along the way. And that's what a leader is required to do. But, it starts with who you are inside. And if you're not working every day at trying to improve yourself and the quality of the person and the character you are, you're not going to be too effective too long leading and coaching others.
So I have in the crawl, if people want to connect with you, Lynn, they should do it on LinkedIn. And hopefully people will hear your interview or conversation with me today and want to reach out and make that connection. So I encourage people not only to look at Lynn's book, which is Coach Him Way Up, but also consider connecting with him on LinkedIn. You share some of the concepts of the concepts in his famous pyramid, and I'm wondering, in the 20 minutes that we have here today, we can't really take the whole pyramid apart. That's for a different day. But I'm wondering if you could just maybe, how does the pyramid of success kind of help guide leaders to build extraordinary results from their teams?
Well, the pyramid, I believe, is the most powerful and comprehensive definition of what true success behavior looks like that's ever been built. I think it's I guess it's a pretty well-known idea, but when you've spent nearly 20 years studying the pyramid of success and looking at every block and every relationship of the blocks to another and seeing how John Wooden used that every day as his own blueprint. It was a little checklist that was part of starting every day and ending every day. When you look at some of the key blocks, the cornerstones, industriousness and enthusiasm. His idea of work was an incredible idea, far superior to what we think about when we just think about everyday hard work. His term industriousness defined that. The idea hard work and careful planning. The idea of no activity without achievement. We spend a lot of time doing things, keep us very busy, make us very tired, but don't really get us to the end objectives that we're trying to accomplish. So he had an understanding of work at a very different level, and his ability to organize the day and to get the most out of every day. Make each day your masterpiece was more than just a nice phrase. It really defined the approach he had to how important every minute of the day was and how well he organized that day. Hard work, you can't be your best if you don't love what you do. And the more likely enthusiasm is bundled up with industriousness, the more likely you're to be effective. a couple of other blocks. I mean, even in what he called the foundation: industriousness, enthusiasm, friendship, loyalty, and cooperation. Those were the 5 blocks at the base of the pyramid, which he called the foundation. His ideas on loyalty and the way he demonstrated loyalty in his life. The idea that you can never really respect yourself unless you show loyalty through your entire life to someone and some things. That was transformational in my life as a son that grew up without a dad and felt abandoned in his own life, to really understand how critical loyalty is in your life to your own self-concept. And his definition of cooperation it is an absolute key to what real teamwork is all about inside a company. A phrase like "listen if you want to be heard." Why isn't there a lot of cooperation on your team? Well, people don't do a very good job of listening to each other. Everybody wants to have the idea. Everybody wants to be heard, but nobody does a very good job of listening to each other. And the other idea in cooperation, be more interested in finding the best way than in having your own way. Well, man, if you can get a whole team of people focused on the idea of we're always working to find the best way to do things, and it doesn't matter who gets the credit for it. Wow, some powerful things really happen, and a team really moves to a higher level. So, you can go through the whole pyramid: self-control, alertness, initiative, intentness, being under control, seeing things that other people don't see, setting goals, and working with what Angela Duckworth would call grit. Grit is the intentness block on the pyramid of success. Dr. Duckworth wrote a whole book about one block on the pyramid, and that's the intentness block. She called it the grit. Did very well for herself with just one block, but when you see all of those blocks working together in such a powerful way, you really have a chance to understand the dynamics of human performance behavior, first your own, and then how it translates to a team or an organization.
So you boil it down into the 5 lessons. Can you share those with us?
Yeah, the 5 lessons that we talked to Rick really relate to his process or his model for coaching. And we like to say that those lessons start with the idea. The first lesson is this notion of seek wisdom. Seek wisdom. We need to pursuing in our life a whole new level of quality thinking. Everything emanates from the quality of your thinking. Your thinking drives your feelings, it drives your behavior, it drives your actions. And if you got a lot of stinking thinking going on, as they say, you're going to have a lot of bad performance or a lot of bad action or a bad attitude and a whole series of things. So the challenge every day is improving the input that's going into your head and keeping your mind focused on the things that are most important and most valuable. We waste way too much time with too many thoughts that aren't productive, that are counterproductive, that don't lead us down the right path. Every bad thing that happens in our life at some point starts with some bad thoughts, right? The Christian perspective was there isn't any sin you've committed that isn't something you've thought about for a while.
That's true. That's absolutely true.
So that first key principle of seek wisdom, and we challenge people to think about how you think about thinking every day. Do you spend any time thinking really intuitively and really recognizing what's going on in your head every day, right? And the more that you can frame a positive attitude and a productive attitude and a caring attitude and a considerate attitude, as Coach would say, 2 most important words in the dictionary is love and balance. Well, how much of your thinking is focused on those 2 ideas every day? So that's the first key principle, that idea of seeking wisdom. Also connected to that idea of what really is, what's the level of control you have, what's coming into your head? man, we've got so many things framing our thinking, the news and media and all of those things that are just pouring into our heads and into our awareness every day that can take us on some paths that we shouldn't be on, or give us some attitudes we shouldn't have, or put us in a mood we don't want to be in. You've got to be real careful about what you let into your head. The second idea out of that, our 5 key ideas, is setting a good example. And Coach Wooden thought that's far and away the best way to teach. That setting an example is the best teacher. Clear and consistent in your attitude and your actions and your behavior, the things that you model that you expect others to model. He had this wonderful little poem that he kept in front of him literally his whole life. And he used to recite this every time he spoke and did it over years and years and years. It was called "A Little Fellow Follows Me." Maybe I could just share a couple of verses.
Sure, please do.
A careful man I must be, a little fellow follows me. I do not dare to go astray, for fear he'll go the self same way. I cannot once escape his eyes, whatever he sees me do, he tries. Like me, he says he's going to be, this little fellow who follows me. He thinks that I am good and fine, believes in every word of mine. The base in me he must not see, this little fellow who follows me. I must remember as I go through summer sun and winter snow, I am building for the years to be this little fellow who follows me. So, John Wooden lived his life in a way that he knew he was setting an example for someone all the time. And we need to have that same idea as part of our life. So that setting a good example becomes very important. The third idea was be a teacher. Everybody's a teacher to somebody. And you've got to help create healthy thoughts and healthy habits that help others get better. And recognize that it's always happening, as Coach would say, as he recognized basketball, always under increasing amounts of pressure. And all of us are feeling that in our life every day. Today, the game seems to be tougher. The game seems to be faster. The game seems to be more challenging. So if we're going to survive, let alone thrive, we've really got to be better at it. And we've got to have teachers in our life that help us do that. And being a teacher. And Coach Wooden thought your opportunity to teach first comes out of the example you set. And interesting, teaching leads to what he thinks being a leader is all about. Coach Wooden described himself as just a teacher, but he knew leadership is part of what he had to do as a coach. We like to say that all great coaches are good leaders, but not all good leaders are great coaches. And this idea of coaching, teaching, and leading, setting the example, being a quality thinker, we think is a much better approach in working with people today, particularly young people. I think our young people have become very skeptical. They don't want to be led. They don't want to be managed. They don't want to be bossed. They don't want to be supervised. But they seem to be comfortable with being coached, because that seems to be more about what they're about and what they'd like to accomplish. They want to be heard. They want to be the best version of themselves. And that's more likely to happen when you're coaching them, I think, than any other way. So you've got to be a leader who's an effective coach. And then the last idea, the fifth idea, is this opportunity to mentor, to have a mentor and to be a mentor. We've all got parts of our life where we really need help. And, that's one of the wonderful things that came out of the 15 years I got to spend with Coach Wooden. Oh, my, what a mentor. What a mentor. And so, and he had mentors, and they weren't all living. Abraham Lincoln was a mentor for him. Mother Teresa was a mentor for him. His wife of 53 years was a mentor for him. So he was always learning, always understanding those parts of his life where he needed help, and he always was looking out for that as a lifelong learner. And then the opportunity we have perhaps to mentor others, starting obviously with our own family. Those are the key ideas. Seek wisdom, set a good example, be a teacher, be a leader, and be a mentor. Those really are the 5 key ideas.
Well, that's fantastic. So this again is Lynn's book. Let me hold it up here. Coach 'em Way Up. 5 lessons for leading the John Wooden way. If someone would like to learn more about you, other than connecting with you on LinkedIn, Lynn, is there a website you would send them to?
Yeah, we've got the website woodencourse.com, www.woodencourse.com. There's also web pages at coachemwayup.com where you can find more information on the book. But woodencourse.com talks about who we are, what we do, the programs and products we offer, and our basic philosophy to coaching in life, and representing the powerful legacy of Coach Wooden. I mean, our mission is to keep his example and these powerful lessons alive for another generation that needs it. I think his teaching and his life example is more important today than it's ever been. And the wisdom that he imparts through his life and through example can really help us get through these very challenging times that we're going through today. Not just get through them, but thrive in the opportunity. This is all about adversity. And Coach would say adversity makes you stronger. That's really where we learn the tough lessons that make us better and help us be everything we're capable of becoming.
Well, I appreciate you giving of your time, the time that you and your writing partner put into writing the book, and now the 20 minutes or so that we spent here on LinkedIn Live today talking about your book. Lynn, I really appreciate you being a part of our community here in Southern California and other markets as well. So thank you for your time today.
All right. Thank you, Rick. Enjoyed being with you.
Yes, and I'm a part of Renaissance Executive Forums. Ladies and gentlemen, we're a global community of 2,000 plus CEOs and business owners who are working together to improve their performance and the performance of their companies. If you'd like to learn more about Renaissance Executive Forums, it's executiveforums.com, and you'll see our global community in action. We believe in this concept of collective intelligence. And so if we're not connected on LinkedIn, let's make sure that we have first level connection. And again, I periodically do these LinkedIn Live interviews where I'm talking with authors of books that I think are valuable to share the concepts with, as I did today with Lynn. So again, Lynn, thank you for your time. And I'd like to thank the audience for spending a little bit of time with us here on the program today.
Okay. Thank you so much, Rick. And as Coach would say, make each day your masterpiece.